Standing in my brother Marcus's marble foyer last Christmas, I never expected him to look me up and down with pure disgust. Seriously, Serafina, you cannot afford this neighborhood. Security probably thought you were lost. His wife Brittany smirked behind her wine glass, while their twins giggled. But when my phone buzzed with a call from Penthouse security about unauthorized access to my own building, everything changed. 24 years of believing I was the family disappointment crumbled in that moment, revealing a web of lies that would destroy everything they built on stolen ground. Hey, beautiful souls. Before we dive into this wild family revenge story, drop a comment letting me know where you are watching from. I love connecting with viewers worldwide. If you are ready for some serious family drama that will have you questioning everything about blood loyalty, smash that like button and hit subscribe, because this story has more twists than a pretzel factory. Trust me, you will want to see how karma serves justice on a silver platter. The call from Penthouse security came at the worst possible moment. Marcus was still lecturing me about knowing my place when my phone rang with an unfamiliar number. Miss Serafina Vale, this is David from Celestial Heights Security. We have individuals attempting to access the penthouse using what appears to be fraudulent credentials. They claim to be family members with authorization. My blood went cold. Celestial Heights was my building. The penthouse was my home. I had lived there for 3 years ever since my tech startup took off. But somehow, someone was trying to break in using family connections they should not have known about. I will be right there, I whispered, stepping away from Marcus's continued rant about my unrealistic lifestyle choices. Where are you going? Brittany called out, her voice dripping with false concern. We are just getting started with Christmas dinner. I turned back to face them, studying their faces with new eyes. Emergency at work. You know how it is with us poor people. Always on call. Marcus rolled his eyes. That is exactly what I mean, Sarah. You are living beyond your means, pretending to have some big career. When are you going to accept reality? The drive to Celestial Heights took 20 minutes through Chicago's snowy streets. During that time, I called my assistant Maya to check our company records. What she told me made my hands shake on the steering wheel. Serafina, there have been multiple attempts to access your personal accounts this week. Someone tried to use your social security number to apply for a business loan. The application was submitted with Marcus Vale listed as your business partner. My stomach dropped. Send me everything. Screenshots, timestamps, all of it. When I arrived at my building, I found 2 police officers waiting in the lobby with David, my security chief. On the marble bench sat a woman I had never seen before, crying hysterically while clutching a designer handbag. Miss Vale, Officer Rodriguez approached me. This woman claims to be your sister-in-law. She insists you gave her permission to access your penthouse to retrieve some family heirlooms for Christmas dinner. I looked at the crying woman more closely. She was well-dressed, probably in her 40s, with the same entitled posture I had seen in Brittany's mother. I have never seen this person before in my life. The woman's tears stopped immediately. What, Sarah, do not be ridiculous. I am Aunt Patricia Marcus's wife's sister. Brittany sent me to get the family silver that your grandmother left you. My grandmother had indeed left me a silver set, but I had never mentioned it to anyone in the family. More importantly, I had no aunt named Patricia, and Brittany's sister lived in California. Officer, I think we need to dig deeper into this. David handed me his tablet, showing the security footage from the past hour. The woman had arrived with a man who looked suspiciously like Uncle Robert, my father's brother. But Uncle Robert had died 2 years ago in a car accident. I had attended his funeral. Ma'am, Officer Martinez stepped forward. We ran the identification cards they provided. Both are fake. High-quality fakes, but fake nonetheless. As they led the fake Patricia away in handcuffs, she screamed back at me. Marcus said you would cooperate. He said, family comes first. You are ruining everything. That night, I sat in my penthouse overlooking the Chicago skyline, pieces of a horrible puzzle falling into place. Maya had sent over months of attempted security breaches, all traced back to information that only my immediate family would know. Birth dates, childhood addresses, the name of my first pet, even my social security number. I called my parents in Florida, but their phone went straight to voicemail. Strange, since they always answered my calls, especially around the holidays. Then I remembered something odd from dinner at Marcus's house. When I had mentioned my penthouse address in passing, Brittany had immediately changed the subject, and Marcus had seemed unusually interested in my work schedule lately, asking specific questions about when I traveled for business. My laptop chimed with an email from my bank's fraud department. Someone had attempted to wire transfer $200,000 from my business account to an offshore account in the Cayman Islands. The request had been submitted with forged documents bearing my signature. I pulled up the security footage from my building's parking garage. For the past month, there had been several instances of unknown vehicles circling the building at odd hours. The license plates belonged to rental cars, all paid for with credit cards registered to fake names. But the most chilling discovery came when I accessed my family's shared photo cloud that we had set up years ago for sharing holiday pictures. Someone had been downloading all my personal photos, including ones that showed the interior of my penthouse, my car, even pictures of my daily routines. The breadcrumbs led back to one person, Marcus. My own brother, who had spent years making me feel small and unsuccessful, had been systematically stealing my identity and attempting to rob me blind. I thought about all the family gatherings where I had felt like an outsider. The subtle comments about my lifestyle, the questions about my finances, the way they always seemed to know more about my business than I had ever shared. It was not sibling rivalry or concern. It was reconnaissance. My phone rang again. This time, it was Detective Chen from the Chicago Police Department's white-collar crime unit. Miss Vale, we need to talk. The individuals we arrested tonight are part of a larger identity theft ring that has been operating for months. We have reason to believe someone close to you has been feeding them information. As I hung up the phone, I realized that everything I thought I knew about my family was a lie. The brother who had spent years making me feel inadequate was actually a criminal who saw me as nothing more than a target. But Marcus had made one critical mistake. He had underestimated me, and now I had all the evidence I needed to bring down his entire operation. The next morning, Detective Chen arrived at my penthouse with a folder thick enough to stop a bullet. What she showed me transformed my understanding of family loyalty forever. Miss Vale, your brother Marcus, has been running a sophisticated identity theft operation for at least 18 months. He specifically targets successful women in their 20s and 30s using family connections to gather personal information. She spread photos across my dining table. Banking documents, forged signatures, fake identification cards, and most disturbing of all, detailed surveillance photos of me going about my daily life. How many victims? I asked, though I dreaded the answer. 17 that we know of. Total financial damage exceeds $3 million. But you, Miss Vale, you are the prize. Your business accounts, your property portfolio, your investment portfolio. He was planning something much bigger than simple credit card fraud. Detective Chen handed me a printed email thread that made my blood run cold. The messages were between Marcus and someone identified only as B, undoubtedly Brittany. Marcus. Sarah's quarterly business review is next week. She'll be traveling to San Francisco for 4 days. Perfect window. B. Patricia confirmed the penthouse layout. Safe is behind the bedroom painting, just like Sarah posted on Instagram last year. Combination is probably Mom's birthday or graduation date. Marcus. Robert's contact in the Caymans confirmed the account setup. Once we transfer the funds, we trigger the business loan defaults. Her credit gets destroyed, assets get frozen, and we swoop in as concerned family offering to help manage her finances. I stared at the emails until my vision blurred. They were going to financially destroy me and then position themselves as my saviors. It gets worse. Detective Chen continued. We found evidence that they have been sabotaging your relationships too. Remember that investor who pulled out of your Series B funding round last minute? We traced some interesting phone calls. She showed me phone records proving that Marcus had contacted my potential investors posing as a concerned family member, warning them about my erratic behavior and substance abuse issues. 3 major deals had fallen through because of his interference. But the cruelest revelation was yet to come. Detective Chen pulled out a medical file. Your parents, Miss Vale. When was the last time you spoke to them directly, not through Marcus or Brittany? I thought back, my heart sinking. Christmas last year. Marcus always said they were too busy traveling, or that Mom's arthritis made phone calls difficult. He usually relayed messages. Your parents have been trying to reach you for months. They have no idea why you stopped calling. Marcus has been intercepting their attempts to contact you and telling them that you are too busy with your new rich friends to bother with family. The detective showed me my parents' actual phone records, dozens of attempted calls to my number, all somehow never reaching me, text messages that I had never received, even letters sent to my old apartment address returned to sender because Marcus had told them I had moved without leaving a forwarding address. They think you abandoned them, Miss Vale, and you think they abandoned you. Meanwhile, Marcus has positioned himself as the dutiful son, keeping the family together while managing your difficult personality. I excused myself to the bathroom and vomited. The systematic destruction of my family relationships, my business, my entire life, all orchestrated by the one person who was supposed to have my back no matter what. When I returned, Detective Chen was studying crime scene photos from the fake Patricia incident. Miss Vale, we need your help to bring down the entire operation. But I have to warn you, this investigation could take months, and your brother will likely realize soon that his plan has been exposed. That afternoon, I called my parents' real number, which Detective Chen had provided. My mother answered on the first ring. Serafina? Oh my God, sweetheart, is that really you? Through tears, I heard her explain how worried they had been, how Marcus had told them I was angry about some family disagreement and needed space, how they had respected my supposed wishes, but had been heartbroken for months. Mom, I never wanted space. I have been calling your old number, but the calls never went through. Old number, honey, we have had the same number for 15 years. Marcus said you were too busy building your career to maintain family relationships. The conversation lasted 3 hours. We compared stories, timelines, and slowly reconstructed 18 months of manipulation and lies. My parents had been sending me care packages that I had never received. They had invited me to family events that I had never heard about. They had even planned to visit Chicago, but Marcus had told them I had specifically asked them not to come because I was embarrassed by their modest lifestyle. By evening, I had a plan. Detective Chen had explained that they needed more evidence to ensure convictions. Wire fraud, identity theft, and conspiracy charges required substantial documentation. What if I could get them to confess on record? I asked. Detective Chen raised an eyebrow. That would be ideal, but also dangerous. These people have already shown they are willing to commit serious felonies. We cannot guarantee your safety. But I had advantages they did not know about. My tech company specialized in security software. I had access to recording equipment, tracking software, and most importantly, I understood exactly how criminals think, because I had spent 3 years developing systems to stop them. Give me 2 weeks, I told Detective Chen. I can get you everything you need. That night, I started planning my own operation. Marcus thought he was the mastermind, but he had made one crucial error. He had taught me everything I needed to know about his methods by using them against me. I would beat him at his own game, and when I was finished, he would understand exactly what it felt like to lose everything you thought you could trust. The war was just beginning, and this time, I held all the advantages. 2 weeks later, I had transformed myself into the perfect bait. Working with Detective Chen and her team, I had created an elaborate trap that would expose the full scope of Marcus's operation while protecting future victims. The plan was elegant in its simplicity. I would appear vulnerable, desperate, and eager to reconnect with family. Exactly the scenario that would make Marcus confident enough to attempt his final, most ambitious theft. I started by calling Marcus and practically begging for another chance at family dinner. "I have been thinking about what you said at Christmas," I told him, injecting just the right amount of shame into my voice. "You were right. I have been living beyond my means, pretending to be something I am not." The satisfaction in his voice was nauseating. "Sarah, I am glad you are finally seeing clearly. Brittany and I have been worried sick about you." "Actually, that is why I'm calling. I think I might need help. Financial help. And maybe some guidance about making better choices." I could practically hear him salivating through the phone. "Of course, sister. Family takes care of family. Why don't you come over this weekend? We can talk everything through." But I was not going in blind this time. Detective Chen had equipped me with recording devices that looked like ordinary jewelry. My watch was actually a high-definition camera. My earrings contained audio transmitters. Even my purse had a hidden GPS tracker and emergency beacon. More importantly, I had spent those 2 weeks gathering my own intelligence. Using resources from my tech company, I had traced the complete network of Marcus's criminal enterprise. The fake Patricia was actually an actress named Sandra Mullins, who specialized in confidence schemes. The fake Uncle Robert was her partner, a convicted identity thief named Gregory Walsh. But the real shock came when I discovered that Marcus's operation was not limited to identity theft. He was running a comprehensive fraud scheme that included insurance scams, mortgage fraud, and even a fake charity that had stolen donations intended for veterans. My brother was not just a petty criminal. He was running a $1 million criminal empire, and I had been his most valuable target. The weekend dinner was scheduled for Saturday night. But on Friday, I received an unexpected call from someone who identified herself as Marcus's ex-business partner. "Miss Vale, my name is Diana Rodriguez. I think your brother stole $200,000 from me, and I believe you might be his next target." Diana agreed to meet me at a downtown coffee shop. She was a real estate developer who had partnered with Marcus on what she thought was a legitimate property investment. Instead, he had used forged documents to access her business accounts and had disappeared with her down payment on a shopping center development. "The worst part," Diana explained, "is that he used personal information about my family to gain my trust. He knew details about my daughter's school, my mother's medical conditions, even my divorce proceedings. Information that only someone close to the family should know." I showed Diana photos of Brittany and the fake Patricia. Her face went white. "That is her. That is the woman who posed as a county inspector to access my property records. She had official identification county business cards, everything." We spent 2 hours comparing notes. Diana had documentation proving that Marcus and Brittany had been running similar schemes for at least 3 years. They would target successful women, particularly those who owned businesses or property. Marcus would cultivate relationships while Brittany would pose as various officials, bank representatives, insurance agents, government inspectors, to gather financial information. But Diana had something even more valuable evidence that they had done this before multiple times with devastating success. "Miss Vale, I know of at least 6 other women who lost everything. One of them, Jennifer Huang, ended up declaring bankruptcy. Another, Maria Santos, lost her family's restaurant. These people destroy lives." Saturday evening arrived with a fresh snowfall that made Chicago look deceptively peaceful. I parked outside Marcus's house and took a deep breath, checking that all my recording equipment was functioning properly. Detective Chen's voice crackled through my nearly invisible earpiece. "Remember, Miss Vale, we need them to confess to specific crimes. Get details about methods, amounts, other victims. And if you feel unsafe at any point, just say the phrase, 'I need to call Mom,' and we will move in immediately." I rang the doorbell with steady hands. Brittany answered, her smile so warm and welcoming that I almost forgot she was a professional criminal. "Sarah, you look wonderful. Come in, come in. Marcus is so excited to help you get your life sorted out. The house smelled like expensive candles and recent renovations. As Brittany led me toward the dining room, I noticed details I had missed during previous visits. New furniture, professional artwork, a wine collection that probably cost more than most people's cars. Marcus greeted me with a hug that felt like a predator embracing prey. Little sister, I am so proud of you for reaching out. It takes courage to admit when you need help. During dinner, they were perfect hosts, attentive, caring, asking all the right questions about my financial troubles and my business problems. I played my part flawlessly, describing fictional cash flow issues and admitting that I had been living on credit cards for months. The worst part, I confessed, is that I am going to lose my penthouse. I got in over my head with the mortgage, and now the bank is threatening foreclosure. Marcus and Brittany exchanged a look that I might have missed if I had not been watching for it. Sarah, Marcus said gently, maybe Brittany and I could help. We have some experience with real estate investments. Perhaps we could take over your mortgage payments temporarily, help you get back on your feet. You would do that for me? Brittany reached across the table to squeeze my hand. Family takes care of family, but we would need to see your financial records, understand the full scope of the situation. Transparency is important when money is involved. I pretended to hesitate. It is just so embarrassing. All those years of acting like I was successful when really I was barely keeping my head above water. There is no shame in struggling, Sarah, Marcus assured me. The shame would be in not accepting help when it is offered. Over the next 2 hours, they walked me through exactly how they would help me. They would need access to my bank accounts to assess the situation. They would need copies of my identification documents for their lawyer. They would need detailed information about my business assets and partnerships. Everything Detective Chen had said they would ask for, they asked for. But the real breakthrough came when Marcus's phone rang during dessert. He glanced at the caller ID and his face darkened. Excuse me, I need to take this. He stepped into the kitchen, but the house's acoustics carried his voice perfectly. What do you mean the Santos account was frozen? No, you cannot use the Rodriguez documents again. We burned that identity last month. Look, just stick to the Henderson target for now. The valet Mark is almost ready to sign over her assets. When he returned to the dining room, his expression was carefully neutral, but I could see the tension in his shoulders. Everything all right? I asked innocently. Just business, nothing important. But it was important. It was confirmation that I was one of many targets, that my own brother saw me as nothing more than a mark to be exploited. As the evening wound down, Marcus handed me a folder of documents. Sarah, these are financial power of attorney forms. Nothing major, just authorization for Brittany and me to speak to your bank and creditors on your behalf. It will make everything much smoother. I flipped through the papers, recognizing sophisticated forgeries designed to give them complete access to my financial life. The same documents that had probably destroyed Diana, Jennifer, Maria, and countless others. This is so generous of you both, I said, tucking the folder into my purse. I just need to read through everything carefully. You understand, right? Of course. Brittany smiled. Take all the time you need. But Sarah, time-sensitive financial situations wait for no one. The sooner we can start helping, the better chance we have of saving your credit and your property. As I left their house that night, I knew I had everything Detective Chen needed. Not just evidence of their intention to commit fraud, but proof of an ongoing criminal enterprise that had destroyed multiple families. The next phase would be the most dangerous, giving them enough access to attempt the actual theft while ensuring they could not escape justice. But I was no longer the naive little sister who had believed in family loyalty above all else. I was the woman who was about to bring down a criminal empire, ready to see how this family revenge story reaches its explosive climax. You will not believe the twist that comes next. It involves Penthouse security, a shocking family secret, and the most satisfying justice moment you have ever seen. Keep watching, because the best part is still coming. Monday morning arrived with the kind of clarity that only comes after a storm. I sat in Detective Chen's office watching her team analyze the recordings from Saturday night's dinner. The evidence was overwhelming, but what happened next would determine whether justice prevailed or my brother escaped to destroy more lives. "Miss Vale, this is exceptional work," Detective Chen said, reviewing the audio transcripts. "We have clear evidence of conspiracy to commit wire fraud, identity theft, and racketeering, but we need to catch them in the actual act of attempted theft." I had already signed the modified power of attorney documents, versions that Detective Chen's forensic team had carefully altered to be legally meaningless while appearing authentic. The plan was simple: let Marcus and Brittany believe they had succeeded, then arrest them when they attempted to access my accounts. But Marcus was smarter than we had anticipated. Tuesday afternoon, my phone rang with a call that changed everything. "Sarah, it's Marcus. Listen, I've been thinking about your situation, and I believe we need to move faster than originally planned. There are some time-sensitive opportunities that could really help you." "What kind of opportunities?" "I have a contact at a private investment firm. They specialize in distressed asset recovery, exactly what you need. But they're only in town until Thursday, and they require immediate documentation." My heart rate spiked. This was not the gradual approach we had expected. Marcus was accelerating his timeline, which meant either he suspected something or he had another victim lined up and needed quick access to my resources. "That sounds amazing, Marcus, but I'm still reviewing the papers you gave me." "Sarah, I understand your caution, but opportunity doesn't wait. This firm has helped dozens of people in situations just like yours. Jennifer Huang, for instance. They completely turned her life around." The mention of Jennifer's name was no coincidence. Diana had told me that Jennifer was one of Marcus's previous victims, a woman whose restaurant empire had been destroyed by his schemes. He was using her name specifically to convince me that his investment firm was legitimate. "Can I meet with these investors directly?" "Unfortunately, they only work through established intermediaries, people they trust. But Sarah, I've known these people for years. They've made me quite successful." I met with Detective Chen that evening to plan our response. The accelerated timeline meant we had to be ready to spring our trap within 48 hours. "Miss Vale, we're going to need you to play along with their accelerated schedule," Detective Chen explained. "But we'll have undercover agents positioned as bank employees, investment advisors, and even building security. The moment they attempt to access your actual accounts, we'll have them." Wednesday morning, I called Marcus back with my decision. "I've thought about it, and you're right. I can't afford to wait. Let's do this." The relief in his voice was palpable. "Excellent choice, sister. Can you meet us at the First National Building downtown's second-floor conference room B, 2 o'clock this afternoon?" But when I arrived at First National Conference Room B was empty except for a janitor who had never heard of any investment meeting. I called Marcus immediately. "Change of plans, Sarah. The investors had to relocate to their private office. It's more discreet anyway. Better for your privacy." He gave me an address that led to a nondescript office building in a part of downtown I didn't recognize. Detective Chen's voice crackled through my earpiece. "Miss Vale, we don't have surveillance set up at this location. This could be dangerous." But backing out now would destroy months of investigation and leave other potential victims vulnerable. I had to see this through. The office was on the third floor of a building that smelled like old carpet and broken dreams. When the elevator doors opened, I found myself face to face with Sandra Mullins, the fake Patricia who had tried to break into my penthouse. "Miss Vale," she smiled, extending her hand, as if we had never met. "I'm Patricia Blackwood, senior partner with Meridian Asset Recovery." Behind her stood Gregory Walsh, the fake Uncle Robert, now introducing himself as Robert Meridian, founding partner. "Please have a seat." Sandra gestured toward a conference table that looked like it had been borrowed from a hotel lobby. Marcus has told us so much about your situation. For the next hour, they presented what appeared to be a sophisticated investment recovery plan. Charts, graphs, testimonials from satisfied clients, and a portfolio of successful asset recoveries that would have been impressive if any of it had been real. But I recognized several of the success stories as the actual victims Diana had told me about. They were using real people's tragedies as fake testimonials for their criminal enterprise. The process is quite simple, Gregory explained. We purchase your distressed assets at fair market value, implement our recovery strategies, then sell them back to you at cost once the situation stabilizes. Sandra slid a contract across the table. All we need is your signature on these asset transfer documents, and we can begin the recovery process immediately. I pretended to read the contract while actually scanning it with a hidden camera app on my phone. The documents were designed to transfer ownership of my penthouse, my business assets, and my investment accounts to a shell corporation controlled by Marcus and Brittany. This looks comprehensive, I said, signing the documents with a special pen that Detective Chen's team had provided, one that used ink that would reveal the documents as fraudulent under forensic analysis. Excellent, Sandra beamed. Now we'll need you to accompany us to your bank to facilitate the initial asset verification process. This was the moment Detective Chen had been waiting for. The actual attempt to access my accounts with fraudulent documentation. We walked 6 blocks to my bank where I had been a customer for 5 years. As we approached the building, I spotted several people I recognized from Detective Chen's team positioned as pedestrians, delivery workers, and even a street musician. Inside the bank, Sandra approached the customer service desk with remarkable confidence. Good afternoon. We need to speak with someone about asset transfer verification. Miss Vale here is working with our firm on some distressed property recovery. The bank employee, actually Detective Morrison in disguise, nodded professionally. Of course, please have a seat. Someone will be with you shortly. But instead of a bank representative, 3 FBI agents emerged from the elevator. Sandra Mullins, Gregory Walsh, you are under arrest for conspiracy to commit wire fraud, identity theft, and racketeering. The transformation in Sandra's demeanor was instant. Gone was the polished professional replaced by a snarling criminal who knew her game was over. You set us up, she screamed at me as the handcuffs clicked into place. Marcus said you were stupid. He said you'd never figure it out. Gregory was already providing information desperate to minimize his own sentence. The whole operation was Marcus's idea. We were just hired contractors, the Cayman accounts, the forged documents, the fake identities. That was all him, but Marcus and Brittany were nowhere to be found. As Sandra and Gregory were led away, Detective Chen approached me with a grim expression. Miss Vale, we have a problem. We just raided Marcus's house and they're gone. Completely cleaned out like they were never there. The house stood empty, but not abandoned. Marcus and Brittany had fled with surgical precision, leaving behind only the furniture that was too large to move quickly, and a few family photos that now felt like evidence of an elaborate lie. Detective Chen walked through the rooms with her forensics team documenting what remained of my brother's double life. They cleared out sometime between midnight and dawn, she explained, pointing to fresh vacuum tracks on the carpet. Professional-level evacuation. These people have done this before. In Marcus's home office, investigators found something that made my blood run cold, detailed files on 17 different women, including surveillance photos, financial records, and what appeared to be psychological profiles designed to identify their vulnerabilities. My file was the thickest. Miss Vale, you need to see this. Detective Chen called me over to Marcus's desk. Hidden behind a false back in the bottom drawer was a journal written in Marcus's handwriting. The entries dated back 3 years and detailed every aspect of his plan to destroy my life. Entry number 47. Sarah still trusts family implicitly. Her success makes her an ideal long-term target, but her intelligence requires more sophisticated manipulation than previous marks. Entry number 52. Convinced Sarah that Mom and Dad are too busy traveling to talk regularly. She accepts my explanations without question. Family loyalty is her greatest weakness. Entry number 73. Sarah's business is growing faster than anticipated. Need to accelerate timeline before she becomes too prominent to target effectively. Entry 91. Christmas dinner was perfect. Sarah looked genuinely hurt by my comments about her lifestyle. Emotional manipulation is more effective than I thought. Each entry revealed the calculated cruelty behind every family interaction over the past 3 years. Marcus had never seen me as his sister. I was nothing more than a long-term investment in his criminal portfolio. But the most devastating discovery came in the basement. Behind a hidden panel, investigators found boxes of documents from dozens of previous victims. Bank statements, identification cards, insurance policies, even personal letters and family photos that had been stolen and used to create convincing backstories for their cons. Miss Vale, Detective Chen's voice was barely above a whisper. We found correspondence between your parents and Marcus dating back 18 months. They've been sending money. She handed me a stack of letters that revealed the full scope of Marcus's betrayal. My parents, believing I was angry with them and struggling financially, had been sending Marcus money every month to help Serafina until she's ready to reconcile with the family. Over 18 months, they had sent him nearly $30,000, money they could not afford on their retirement income, money that Marcus had used to fund his criminal operation, while simultaneously telling me that my parents were too busy with their new life to maintain contact. There's more. Detective Chen continued. We found evidence that Marcus has been intercepting packages, birthday cards, even Christmas gifts that your parents sent to your old address. He's been keeping them in a storage unit across town. The storage unit contained 3 years of my life that had been stolen from me. Birthday presents I had never received, letters expressing my parents' love and concern, photo albums they had sent hoping I would remember happier family times, even a handmade quilt my mother had spent months creating for my new apartment. But Marcus's cruelest theft was not material. It was emotional. He had systematically destroyed the relationship between me and my parents while positioning himself as the dutiful son managing a difficult family situation. That afternoon, I called my parents and told them everything. The conversation lasted 4 hours and involved more tears than I thought possible. They were horrified to learn how Marcus had manipulated all of us, but mostly they were heartbroken that I had spent years believing they no longer cared about me. Sweetheart? My mother's voice was thick with emotion. We never stopped loving you. We never stopped worrying about you. Marcus told us you needed space to grow, and we respected that because we wanted what was best for you. My father's voice shook with anger when I described Marcus's criminal operation. That boy is no son of mine. What he did to you, to those other families, that's not how we raised him. While my family began the long process of healing, Detective Chen's team worked around the clock to track Marcus and Brittany's escape route. Financial records showed that they had been moving money to offshore accounts for months, creating an escape fund that would allow them to disappear completely. We've issued federal warrants, Detective Chen explained. FBI, Interpol, even international financial crime units are looking for them. But Miss Vale people with their resources and experience can hide for a long time. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source, Diana Rodriguez, the real estate developer who had been one of Marcus's previous victims. Miss Vale, I think I know where they might have gone, Diana said during a conference call with Detective Chen. When Marcus was working with me, he mentioned having connections in Costa Rica. Something about property investments that were off the radar of American law enforcement. Detective Chen's team traced Marcus's communications and discovered that he had indeed been in contact with a criminal network that specialized in helping white-collar fugitives establish new identities in Central America. But Marcus had made one critical mistake. He had used the same encrypted communication system to coordinate with his criminal contacts that he had used to manage his identity theft operation. FBI cybercrime specialists were able to trace his digital footprint and identify his exact location. "They're in San Jose, Costa Rica," Detective Chen announced, living under the names David and Rebecca Martinez in a gated community that caters to American expatriates. The arrest came at dawn on a Thursday morning. Costa Rican authorities working with FBI international crime units surrounded the luxury villa where Marcus and Brittany had been living under their assumed identities. Detective Chen called me as I was having breakfast in my penthouse. "Miss Vale, we have them. Both Marcus and Brittany are in custody, and they're being extradited back to Chicago to face federal charges." But the story was far from over. As investigators processed Marcus and Brittany's electronics, they discovered evidence of criminal activities spanning 7 years and involving hundreds of victims across 12 states. Marcus had not just been running an identity theft ring. He had been operating one of the most sophisticated family-based criminal enterprises in the country, using emotional manipulation and family trust to steal millions of dollars from vulnerable women. The preliminary victim count stood at 137 people whose lives had been destroyed by my brother's operation. As I hung up the phone with Detective Chen, I realized that exposing Marcus's crimes was only the beginning. Now came the harder challenge, helping rebuild the lives that he had systematically destroyed, starting with my own family. Justice was finally being served, but the real work of healing was just beginning. 6 months after Marcus's arrest, I stood in the same courthouse where he would soon be sentenced, but this time I was not there for him. I was there to witness something beautiful, the formation of a support network that had grown from the ashes of his criminal empire. The Marcus Vale Criminal Enterprise, as federal prosecutors had officially designated it, had affected 137 families across 12 states. But instead of remaining isolated in our trauma, many of us had found each other and created something Marcus had never understood: genuine family bonds based on choice rather than manipulation. Diana Rodriguez had become like a sister to me. Jennifer Huang, whose restaurant empire Marcus had destroyed, was rebuilding with investment help from successful victims who had recovered financially. Maria Santos had started a nonprofit organization that helped identity theft victims navigate the complex process of financial recovery. "The irony," Diana said as we sat in the courthouse cafeteria before Marcus's sentencing hearing, "is that his cruelty brought together a group of women who understand loyalty, trust, and support in ways he never could." The hearing itself was a masterclass in justice served cold. Marcus, dressed in an orange jumpsuit that was a far cry from his expensive suits, looked older and smaller than I remembered. The confident manipulator who had spent years making me feel inadequate was gone, replaced by a man who finally understood what powerlessness felt like. Federal prosecutor Sarah Williams methodically detailed the scope of his crimes: wire fraud, identity theft, racketeering conspiracy, money laundering, and tax evasion. The financial damage exceeded $4.7 million, but the emotional damage was incalculable. When Judge Patricia Hoffman asked if I wanted to give a victim impact statement, I approached the podium with a letter I had written and rewritten dozens of times. "Your Honor, Marcus Vale was not just my brother. He was my first example of what family meant. For 26 years, I believed that family meant unconditional support, shared struggles, and mutual protection. Marcus taught me that I was wrong about what family meant, but he also taught me what it truly should be." I looked directly at Marcus for the first time since his arrest. He could not meet my eyes. "Real family does not manipulate your vulnerabilities for financial gain. Real family does not steal your relationships with parents and then profit from the isolation they create. Real family does not spend years making you feel small while systematically stealing your identity and destroying your credit. But Marcus also taught me that family is not about blood. It is about choice. The women in this courtroom today, the victims who have become my chosen sisters, they represent what family actually means. Mutual support, genuine care, and the courage to stand up for each other when someone tries to tear us down. Judge Hoffman sentenced Marcus to 15 years in federal prison without possibility of parole for 8 years. Brittany received 12 years. Their criminal associates received sentences ranging from 3 to 10 years, and the entire network was dismantled permanently. But the real victory was not in their punishment. It was in what we built afterward. My parents moved to Chicago 6 months after the trial. We spent a year rebuilding our relationship, working through the pain and confusion that Marcus had created. My mother cried when she saw the storage unit full of gifts and letters that Marcus had intercepted. My father helped me hang the handmade quilt in my penthouse, and it became the centerpiece of family dinners that actually felt like family. "Serafina," my mother said during one of our weekly dinners, "I know Marcus hurt you terribly, but watching you rebuild and help other people heal, I have never been prouder of the woman you have become." The support network that grew from Marcus's victims became formally organized as the Phoenix Recovery Foundation. We provided financial counseling, legal assistance, and emotional support for identity theft victims, with a special focus on family-based crimes that traditional victim services were not equipped to handle. Diana became our executive director. Jennifer developed our financial recovery programs. Maria created our legal advocacy division. And I used my technology background to develop security tools that would prevent the kind of sophisticated family manipulation that Marcus had perfected. 1 year after the trial, we had helped over 300 families recover from identity theft crimes. Our success rate for financial recovery was 87%, and our peer support programs had helped dozens of people rebuild relationships that criminals had destroyed. But perhaps the most meaningful victory was personal. At our annual Phoenix Recovery Gala, I was surrounded by my chosen family, women who had survived the worst kind of betrayal and chosen to transform their pain into purpose. "You know," Diana said as we watched Jennifer receive an award for outstanding community service, "Marcus probably never imagined that his crimes would create something this powerful." My parents were there too, proudly introducing themselves as Serafina's parents to anyone who would listen. They had started volunteering with our foundation, helping other families navigate the complex emotions of betrayal by someone they trusted. The evening's highlight came when Judge Hoffman, who had sentenced Marcus, spoke about the importance of victim advocacy and community response to white-collar crime. "The Phoenix Recovery Foundation represents something unique in victim services," she said. "These women took their experience of betrayal and manipulation and transformed it into a system of genuine support and empowerment. They prove that justice is not just about punishment, it is about healing and prevention." As the evening wound down, I found myself thinking about the Christmas dinner where this journey had begun. Marcus had told me that I could not afford my neighborhood, could not afford my lifestyle, could not afford to pretend I was successful. He was wrong about everything except this: I could not afford to continue believing that family meant accepting abuse, manipulation, and betrayal simply because of shared DNA. The family I chose, my parents who had never stopped loving me, my Phoenix sisters who understood survival and recovery, and the community we built together, was worth more than any criminal enterprise Marcus could have constructed. That night, as I stood on my penthouse balcony, looking out over Chicago's skyline, I realized that Marcus had given me an unexpected gift. By showing me what family should never be, he had taught me to recognize what family truly could be. And for that lesson, in the strangest way possible, I was almost grateful. So, here is my question for all of you watching this story unfold. Have you ever discovered that someone you trusted was not who you thought they were? How did you rebuild after betrayal by family? Drop your experiences in the comments below. Your story might help someone else who is struggling with similar family dynamics. And if this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe for more real-life family drama stories that prove justice and healing are possible even after the deepest betrayals. Share this with anyone who needs to hear that chosen family can be stronger than blood family when built on genuine love and respect. Thank you for witnessing my journey from family victim to family survivor. And remember, sometimes the best revenge is simply building a better life than the one someone tried to destroy. May your own family stories be filled with authentic love, genuine support, and the courage to choose relationships that truly serve your happiness and growth.